Hey, how's it going? So I thought it's been a little while since I've done anything other than a guitar cover. I haven't done anything lesson related in a long time, and there's a few reasons for that. But I thought it'd be really cool for this video to change things up a little bit, to show you 5 guitar exercises that absolutely changed the game for me and my guitar journey. So the exercises are going to vary in ability a little bit. We're going to be starting off with the easier ones and then moving on to the more advanced ones. But even if you're a beginner, I really suggest that you kind of watch through all of the exercises, because there's going to be something that you can take from the harder ones as well. And even if you're doing them just at a reduced speed, that's still perfect, and it means that you've taken something from these exercises and from this video, which is the goal. But just before we jump in, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. For those of you that are unaware, Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of super interesting classes for creative people to work on their passions, explore new skills, and jump into their creative side. Skillshare offer creative classes designed for real life and all of the circumstances that come with it. These classes can help you to stay inspired, express yourself, and it'll also introduce you to a community of millions. They offer classes on pretty much everything that you could imagine, ranging from music to art, to health and fitness, to productivity, to cooking, to gardening, music production, music theory, guitar lessons, literally everything that you could imagine. Skillshare have a class on it. A Skillshare class that I've been watching a lot recently is video editing with Final Cut Pro 10 from beginner to YouTuber by Ali Abdaal. This Skillshare class is really awesome if video editing is something that you want to learn more on. Ali basically takes you through all of the kind of most important information and groundwork that you're going to need to know to get running smoothly using Final Cut Pro 10. The beautiful thing about Skillshare is that it has absolutely no ads, as it's specifically curated for learning. And the first 1,000 people to click the link in the top line of my description will receive a free trial of Skillshare Premium, and then after that it is only about $10 a month or so. I really hope that you enjoy the free classes, and with that being said, let's move on and take a look at 5 guitar exercises that absolutely changed the game for me, and hopefully they will for you too. So for this first exercise, we have something relatively simple and self-explanatory. It's a pentatonic scale exercise, and literally all I'm doing is ascending and descending up and down the B and the E string of all 5 pentatonic scale shapes. So this exercise is really good for a couple of reasons. 1, it helps you to get a lot more fluent. 2, it helps you to get used to connecting up the pentatonic scale shapes without having to play through each entire shape. You're just kind of using a snippet of each shape, so it's a lot faster. And 3, it kind of is a lick in itself. So if you're kind of getting started in the world of improvising and soloing and stuff like that, it can actually be so difficult to kind of like know what to play. And this was a thing that kind of like doubled up as a lick and an exercise for me. So if I was doing a guitar solo in the key of A minor, I knew that I could use this lick exercise at some point in whatever it was that I was kind of playing. So yeah, this is definitely one that I kind of practiced a lot. And when you're playing it like more as a lick, then maybe you can play it along to a backing track or with a band that you're jamming with, whatever it may be. But when you're wanting to use it as an exercise, that's when you want to crack out the metronome and play it with a metronome instead. But to actually take a closer look at the lick, what we've got going on here is we're basically ascending, like I said before, up and down the 5 shapes of the A minor pentatonic scale. So on the B string first, you're going to go up from frets 5 to 8. And then do the same thing on the E string. So that's our shape 1. Now moving up to shape 2 of the pentatonic scale, you're going to go from frets 8 to 10 on the B and the E string. After that, moving up to shape 3, you're going from 10 to 13 on the B and then 10 to 12 on the E. After that, moving into shape 4, you're going to go from 13 to 15 on B and 12 to 15 on E. Then we're up to the final shape, shape number 5. So you're going to go from 15 to 17 on the B and the E string. And then I can't even remember what I played now. I think I went back up to shape number 1, but obviously one whole octave away from kind of where we started. So you'd be going from 17 to 20 on both B and E string. So doing that slowly. And then the other thing that I did was I simply kind of reversed what I was doing to come back down. So once I got up to that final shape, I would play that 20th fret on the E twice and then descend back down everything that I had done. But instead of starting with the B string, you start with the E string. So when we were ascending, we were going B, E, but now we're going E, B. And that's basically all there is to that kind of licking exercise, but this is what it sounds like when you pair it up with a metronome at 120 beats per minute. And this is exactly what I did when I was practicing it and using it as an exercise. I used to drill this to a metronome for literal hours and drive my family absolutely crazy, but it obviously did something good for me, so maybe you should try that too. So that's my straightforward ascending and descending pentatonic exercise. Knock yourselves out with that one. It's relatively simple. You can do that as fast or as slow as you like. Another thing to mention, obviously, that is going to work best with alternate picking, so make sure that you're including that. So this second exercise then, I actually learnt this from a guitar teacher, one of my guitar teachers, and I remember it first being extremely confusing, but once I got my head around it, it was super beneficial for a few different reasons. So number 1, this is great for learning to string skip a little bit. So when we kind of first start to learn guitar, it's very normal for us to kind of ascend and descend from string to string. Whereas this kind of throws things out of the way a little bit, and it kind of introduces it, but not too brutally, if that makes sense. So you're only kind of changing one note and skipping out one string, which is a really nice introduction to string skipping. It really helped me out with my finger independence and using my pinky. Obviously you can play it like that, but the stretch is a little bit awkward, so kind of building that pinky independence and strength was definitely something that I kind of gained from this exercise. And then lastly is it really helped with my alternate picking as well. So those are the top 3 things that it kind of like improved for me. So you're going to move up and you're going to play 10, 12, 13 using your index, third and pinky finger. Remember to alternate pick this entire thing. And then you move down to the B string and you play 10 before then descending the thing that you just ascended and going 13, 12, 10. So it's kind of based around this idea, and you just go up and down, apart from you switch out the 10th fret on the B string for the 10th fret on the E string once you go round. So start again, but this time rather than playing 10 on B, we play 10 on E. And you just kind of go round those 2 variations over and over again. So the exercise itself, like, there really isn't that many notes involved and it doesn't move too much. You're in the same place and it's very pattern based, but you can build up some serious speed with that. And again, playing that with a metronome is what's gonna kind of like give you the most out of this exercise. So this is what it sounds like at 120 beats per minute with a metronome. Much like with the last one, you can play this as fast or as slow as you wish. Obviously start off at a place that is manageable. Okay. Start out with a place that is manageable for you and then increase the speed gradually and slowly as and when you feel ready to. So exercise number 3 again is very pentatonic kind of based. But you can actually apply this to pretty much any scale or any pattern that you'd like. I just like to do it in pentatonic for the sake of kind of making it a relatively straightforward kind of demonstration. So why is this exercise good? So this really helped me with building up stamina, speed, and also it really helps me to kind of get used to going in different directions with my pick and also with my fretting hand as well, to be honest with you. Because you're not kind of just moving in a linear motion, you're going up a bit and then back a bit. So you're kind of like jumping back and forth between strings, which gets you used to moving in an irregular sort of way, which is really good. So what are we actually doing here? So we're going to be doing this in shape 1 of the pentatonic scale in the key of A minor, and you're literally playing the pentatonic scale shape just how it is, but your pattern is different. I'm not going to break this down and show this to you like I have the last few exercises, because it would make no sense, because it's just a blur of notes. There's nothing really kind of memorable about the actual frets that you're playing, it's all about the pattern. So the way that I like to remember this is I kind of think of this split in half. So in shape 1 of the pentatonic, we both go to the 7th fret and the 8th fret if we're in the key of A, which we are. But I want you to imagine those two as the same fret. So we're splitting our hand in two like that. But basically, the 4th note that you land on of the pattern, you're then going to come up a string and start with that same finger. Like I said, just imagine these two frets are exactly the same fret. So remember, this is the same as this fret, just ignore that. You come up a string. Here's a better example. Come up a string. Come up a string. Come up a string again. Come up a string. Come up a string. Again, we're split here. Imagine these two are the same fret, so you come up a string, up a string. And I actually think descending down this exercise is easier than it is ascending, which is very strange, but just the way it is. You do exactly the same thing again. Descend 4, and then wherever you just were, do the same fret or finger, just moved down a string. So. Like the previous 2 exercises, this is best when you practice it with the metronome. So this is what it sounds like with a metronome at 120 beats per minute. So this uses my absolute all-time favourite technique, which is legato, and I actually learnt this exercise from Mark Tremonti when I went to one of his guitar clinics back in, when was it? 2014, so a few years ago now. But basically he went through a lot of different kind of legato exercises, and this is one of the ones that stuck with me the most. So we're working on 3 different patterns here, that's a lie, 3 different kind of shapes. So you're going to use your index, middle and pinky finger for the first one, and then you're going to use your index, 3rd finger and pinky for the second one, and then the final shape is your index, middle and pinky. And it's the same pattern throughout the entire thing, it's just you're changing the frets that you're using. And this one is so good for strength building and also just legato technique. And it also helps you to be a much cleaner playing, because there's a lot to be said in the way of 2-handed muting when doing legato technique, and particularly this exercise. because you are only staying on one string. So you're going to make sure that all of your other strings are absolutely silent. Anyway, so starting with that first shape, so you're going to put your pinky finger on the 11th fret, and then you're going to do a pull off from 11 to 7 using your index finger. After that we have 2 hammer-ons, so you're going to hammer on from 7 to 9, so to your middle finger, and then from 9 to 11. And then we have 2 pull-offs. So first of all, just get really used to that pattern. Now you take the exact same pattern and apply it to some different frets. So rather than going, we're going to go. So you're going to go pull off from 10 to 7, hammer on from 7 to 9, from 9 to 10, and then pull off from 10 to 9, and then 9 to 7. And then you play that for a little while as well. And then our final shape, again, exact same pattern, but we're using different frets again. So this time, you're only changing one finger from the shape that you were kind of just on. So rather than pulling off and hammering on to the 9th fret, you do that to the 8th fret using your middle finger. So all 3 shapes together there. I like to do them twice normally before moving to the next one. And you'll see that on the kind of ending there, I went from shape 1 to 2 to 3 to 2 to 1, so you kind of like work up through them. And you can practice this until the cows come home. You can practice this all day long if you wanted to. So unlike the previous exercises that I went through, this one I actually didn't ever really play to a metronome, and I actually remember Mark, like really vividly for some reason, saying you could practice this unplugged whilst the TV is on. It doesn't sound particularly good. It's all about the strength and stamina that's involved with legato. Obviously, like I said before, there's a lot to be said in terms of muting when it comes to legato. But once you're kind of confident on that front, this is an exercise that you can just kind of use to build as much strength as you possibly can. So yeah, you don't even need to be plugged in to be practicing it. And it can actually be quite a good exercise to try this one unplugged. Because you can get an idea of how strong your legato is depending on whether your strings are still sounding despite being unplugged, because then you're really not working off of the the pickups and the amp at all. It is all you, so it's quite interesting to play that unplugged. Moving on, next exercise. So for this final exercise is sweep picking based, with a couple of other techniques as well. So you've got a little bit of legato in there as well with your kind of like pull-offs, and you're also dealing with sliding. So this exercise is it's just so much fun and quite hypnotic to kind of play, because you're using very similar shapes and moving up and down the fretboard. You get into kind of like a cycle, which is really good. I love things that you can kind of practice in that way, because they just help to drill things so much faster when they're on a like repetitive cycle than if you keep having to stop all the time. So it's really good for that. It's also really good obviously for the main thing that it is, which is sweep picking, which is something that I don't necessarily use a lot, but it's something that is really good to be able to kind of do. And even if you don't use sweep picking a lot, it can make you much more fluent in other areas of your playing, because there's a lot of different kind of like skills that go into being good at kind of like sweep picking. A lot of it is muting, obviously being very consistent with your attack on your pick, moving from string to string. There's just a lot about sweep picking that you kind of need to have underway to be able to kind of like master it. And this is the exercise that mainly helped me with sweep picking. It was something that I really struggled with for such a long time, because you have to be so fluid about playing, and I just didn't get that. And I think this particular exercise sounds really nice. And like I said before, it's cycle based, so those were the two things that helped me to crack it basically. And we're going to be starting this with a major arpeggio, and you're going to play 10 on A, 9 on D, 7 on G, 8 on B, 7 on E, that's right, and then 10 on E. And you obviously want to make sure that you're using the right fingers, so there is just no way that you could do this with multiple fingers. You have to stretch them out in that kind of that C shape, so make sure that you're doing that. So that's our first shape. We then slide up to the 14th fret of the E string, and you're going to pull off from 14 to 10. You're then going to come down to the B string, play 12, play 11 on G, play 12 on D, and play 14 on A. And then after that you slide back down to the first shape that we played. And then we're going to do the same minor arpeggio shape that we just did up here, but you're going to slide back 1 fret from the 10th fret on the E to the 9th fret on the E. You're going to go 9, 5, followed by 7 on the B, followed by 6 on the G, followed by 7 on D, and then followed by 9 on A. So in total you have this. And the beautiful thing about this is you can just go round and round and round, like through sliding. Obviously, the major thing to think about is obviously how you're doing with your sweep picking on this. So making sure that you're dragging your pick down. So sweep picking was so hard, like I said before, for me to kind of understand, and ultimately it was this dragging motion. So you drag your pick and then drop and pause on the next string. And that was what kind of like made it all make sense paired with this exercise for me. But this is how the exercise sounds at 120 beats per minute with a metronome. This exercise genuinely feels so smooth and lovely to kind of play, and it's definitely one of my favourites, and because it sounds so wonderful, I also wouldn't really class it as an exercise. Not that exercises sound bad, but it's more melodic than that. It's just, yeah, it's really lovely to play, so try that one out. So those are my 5 exercises that I absolutely swear by, and the ones that helped me kind of improve the most throughout the years, I guess. I really hope that you enjoyed learning them, and I hope that you really got something out of this video, and that maybe if you take a couple of these exercises and implement them into your kind of practicing routine, you should start to see some improvements for sure. But as always, it's all about how you practice them and whether you're being super productive with it. So make sure that you're, the steps as always to follow, just make sure that you're kind of not jumping in too deep, make sure that you're at a speed that is absolutely doable, and only start to push the speed up once you're absolutely nailing the exercise, because speed means nothing if the exercises are sloppy and not there, so just remember that. If you want to learn from me, you can head on over and check out my Patreon, where I release guitar lessons and exclusive guitar tabs to every single one of my cover videos, among lots of other cool stuff, such as early access to my videos, one-to-one Zoom calls, exclusive merchandise, and behind the scenes vlogs and footage, where you get lots of sneak peeks at all of the music that I'm currently working on. Your support over there means the absolute world to me, and is exactly the reason how I am able to do all of this stuff, so I really, really appreciate it. If you enjoyed watching this video, please hit like, comment down below and subscribe. Let me know which one is your favourite exercise out of those 5, and whether you'd like to see a few more sort of tutorials, and if so, what kind of tutorials would you like to see next? I would love to know. Have fun with those exercises, and I will catch you in the next video. I hope that you have the best day. See you later.